everyone. Welcome back to the Raptor Queens Podcast. As far as we know, the first and only all-woman-led podcast covering the Toronto Raptors. I'm your host, Sarah Khalil, and joining me today are my other Queens of the North, Allison Hope and Sonali Sharma. Unfortunately, Esi Magic is sick today. It's never fun to be sick over the holidays. It's a little bit like when your top 3 players or 3 of your top 6 players are injured and they can't play on Christmas Day. That's what it's like with you missing Esi. We will definitely miss your voice. We hope you get better soon, and all the best over the holidays. We hope you enjoy your time with your family. Speaking of the holidays, Merry Christmas, everyone. We hope you enjoyed your Christmas holiday, the whole thing, Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, Christmas game, despite the L. And, before we get too far into covering the Raptors and, all of the things that we have to say about the last week, let's hear from Allison and Sonali, and let's start us off on a note of gratitude. In the spirit of the holidays, what are you grateful for today? Allison, why don't you take us off?
Hey, everybody. Glad to be here. And just a shout out to Esi. Get well soon. I am ever so grateful for June 13th, the night we won the championship. I have to say that changed my life forever. I'm grateful to have been born in Canada, and I'm grateful for good health. And hopefully all those things will continue in the new year.
Yeah, thank you. Sonali?
Yeah, shout out to Esi. I hope she feels better. We miss you. My gratitude is, it's the spirit, the holiday season. I'm here with my family. Velour jumpsuits. I feel really comfortable. That's what I got for Christmas this year. And really thankful, really, really thankful for the greatest comeback in franchise history and for being Canadian. And I'm just excited.
Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna echo the being Canadian part. There are a few different stories that I read over the holidays about immigration or just, dealing with borders and things like that. And I just want to say I'm really grateful to be born in a country that is peaceful. And I'm grateful for Chris Boucher. I'm grateful for Kyle Lowry and my friends and my family. Especially over the holidays, I was also sick, and they all just took care of me, and so it's nice to be taken care of. So, anyway, thank you. So that was our gratitude note, and now let's get into covering some Raptors stuff. And actually, just quickly before we get into that, I want to say thanks to everyone who tuned into our podcast last week. It was our first ever podcast. We had over 100 listeners. Which was actually a surprise to hit that many listeners so quickly. So thanks for all the support and the energy that has been behind us over the last couple of weeks as we've launched. And we hope to continue that energy and keep moving forward with this. It's just been a lot of fun, and I'm sure it will continue to be fun. So let's see what happened this week. So it has been 7 days. That's it. It's been 7 days since Pascal Siakam, Norman Powell, and Marc Gasol went down with injuries in the same game against Detroit, and it has been the longest year of Raptor fans' life. Over that week, we've played 4 games. The first game, won against Cleveland. Second game against the Mavericks, we did win 110-107. It was the greatest comeback in Raptors history, and I'm sure we will talk further about that. We took a loss against the Pacers in overtime. That was also coming from behind to force overtime. And then finally, yesterday, Christmas Day, against the Celtics, the Raptors lost. Unfortunately, a bit of a blowout loss. They went up by 10 to start the game, and then the Celtics went on a run, and that was pretty much it for the Raptors. So that's what happened this week. Big picture. We're going to start really big picture, get a hot take from each of you about the game and then about the week, and then we will drill down further into it. So Sonali, let's just talk about Sonali's tweets for 1 second. Sonali yesterday spent her entire Twitter timeline just making Christmas related jokes that some of them made sense. For example, I'm not sure about this one. Chris Boucher is a sneaky Rudolph. Not entirely sure what that meant, but it made me laugh, and it was about Chris Boucher, so I liked it. Sonali, what is your big picture take for the week?
Well, as you can tell, I really like Christmas. And I was just thinking about Nick Nurse, Santa Claus, and his sleigh, and the reindeer that are driving it. And so, if I'm not mistaken, I think Santa had 9 reindeer. And so I just kind of looked at all 3 of the games and thought about all the players and which reindeer would be associated with which player. And so based on my big picture take, I would say, the dasher of the week would have been, in my opinion, Kyle Lowry, and dancer, the groovy one, the big heart, Serge. Prancer, the group rouser, always on time, great memory, Rondé Hollis Jefferson, and the vixen or the entertainer of the week would have been Terrence Davis for me. Comet, sort of like the mom of the group, very caring, stoic, calm. We got Freddie Van Vliet. And then we've got, and then Rudolph. Actually, we've got Blitzen as well, too, the spontaneous 4-minute player. And every 4 minutes, I remember each minute, Stanley Johnson. And Rudolph, who was like our guiding light this week, natural leader. He's just going to come into his own, Chris Boucher. So there's my take of the week.
Okay, thank you for that. That was both expected and unexpected. I don't even know exactly how to respond to that. Thanks for bringing the Christmas spirit to this podcast. Allison, I don't know how you top that, and yet at the same time, I think it might be really easy. So go ahead. What do you got, Allison?
Actually, I don't think I top it, and shout out velour jumpsuits. So I think we have to temper our expectations a little bit. I mean, we came off a week last week with some relatively soft opponents, and then we stepped up this week to some really difficult opponents. So things were looking great last week, not so great this week, and I guess we need more of a middle of the road kind of attitude about things. It was discouraging, but then I look back to last week and I was like on the moon. So we just need middle of the road, I think, with our expectations with these injuries.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna echo you a little bit, Allison, in my take, which is just the little reminder for the team, for the fans, never too high, never too low. And I really think what happened, and it makes a lot of sense with that comeback win against the Mavericks. That was such an emotional high, both for the fans and for the players. And then to force overtime against the Pacers, and come from behind to force overtime is also really emotional. And like, even as a professional athlete, I imagine it's hard to just turn off your emotions unless you are Kawhi Leonard and a robot. And so it's easy and natural to like ride a high and then feel a low of a blowout loss unless you are really disciplined about that. And so I think there's something to be said about just like what you're saying, like tempering expectations. That's part of discipline, and then just staying really even keeled and making each game mean only the game that it means, even when they are exciting and emotional and full of like significance in the sense of greatest comebacks or Christmas Day or whatever it is. So yeah. So Sonali, did you have something you were gonna add to that?
Yeah, no, as you were speaking, I was also thinking that even though, a loss like the one to the Celtics yesterday, but we have to remember that Chris Boucher had a career high 24 points yesterday. So even though as a team, it was a disappointing result, I mean, individually, there's a lot of players that are showing up in these teams, and we can't discredit that.
Okay, great. So let's talk about Chris Boucher for a second. In fact, there are kind of 3 players I want to highlight and get each of you to speak about for just a second. Those 3 players are Kyle Lowry, Chris Boucher, and Rondé Hollis Jefferson. To me, the 3 standout players of the week. Allison, let's start with you. What did you notice about? I mean, you can talk specifically about these 3 players, or if you want to go outside of that, feel free. I noticed that when those 3 players were on the floor, there was a ton of energy on the team, and that things happened every time they were out there. What did you notice about the lineups, our bench? Kyle, what do you want to speak about?
So before Kyle was named Eastern Conference Player of the Week, I was kind of watching his numbers, and he put up like some crazy numbers. He was averaging, what was it, 24, 10, and 6 last week. So just amazing leadership. And for, a guy that's, I guess, 34 years old, like just he's playing at a very, very high level. As far as Chris Boucher, I really like him, but I think yesterday's game made it clear that he probably is not a functional 5 against a lot of lineups. I don't think can play center against big, strong, like opposing centers, which is basically most of the league. Enes Kanter basically feasted on him yesterday. So I think for a lot of these teams, he would be more of a 4-man. And as far as Rondé, the guy just gives an incredible spark. And I'm impressed with his finishing around the basket. For someone who can't shoot, the dude sure can finish. And I think not that they're even close to the same players, but I remember Bismack Biyombo and what a terrible finisher he was. And his hands, like he was playing with gloves on. But Rondé, he like very quick first step, and he can finish, and he's got a nose for rebounds. So those 3 guys are fun to watch.
Yeah, great. I really echo your point about Chris Boucher and posting up against these big men in the East. I really noticed the absence of Marc Gasol this week. I just think, to come out of the East, you need a really solid center. I don't know if there is a better defensive center than Marc Gasol. And who is it on the, is it Sabonis? Sabonis on Indiana. Just like, they just didn't have an answer for him. And then yesterday, Kanter. Just underneath the rim, and then the Raptors defense kind of collapses in because they don't have Marc in the center, and then there's so many wide open threes as a result of it. I just really felt the absence of Marc this week for sure. Sonali, what about you?
I digressed. You guys have, I think, hit the nail on the head. I agree with everything else and said about Chris Boucher. I mean, my sort of hope for him is that he sort of figures out his like gangly body and like really comes into himself. I think he is starting to feel comfortable in like his stature in the way that he shows up. But I definitely don't think he's a Marc Gasol, and he doesn't have that intimidation factor, but that's pretty much all I have to say about him. And
okay, so let's look bigger picture then at the impact of the injuries on this team's play. So we've already kind of touched on Marc Gasol. We've also, of course, we're missing Pascal Siakam, our leading scorer, and we're missing Norman Powell. So those are huge gaps to fill. Well, Siakam especially, and Norm, I've noticed in particular, like an absence of, well, for both of them, it's just an absence of offense. And where are we getting our offense from? Allison, why don't you go ahead with that?
So, oh boy, long story short, I think this is the team we have till we get the injured players back. And I worry, especially, I mean, as fun as that game was against Dallas to watch, I mean, that was incredible. But we were putting ourselves in deep deficits to start games and necessitating these huge frantic comebacks that just expend so much energy. And when that happens, people are at risk for injury. I mean, these guys are playing full out. So I just worry this is unsustainable. And, this is kind of where the wheels are starting to fall off. So I wonder if Nick Nurse is going to have to make a decision. He's going to thoroughly explore the bench and kind of figure out rotations and what we might look like in the playoffs down the road. Because just to play Kyle Lowry 35 minutes and 39 minutes. And, I'm watching Fred. It's clear that Fred is not back to normal. I think there's something more going on with his knee than we were told. So I just think Nick Nurse is going to have to back off. We're not going to win all these games against quality opponents, and we can't keep playing back from these huge deficits. It's just too much to ask.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering the same thing. Like, do you kind of just let the next few games happen? I know the Raptors are a really competitive team, and it's in their DNA to compete hard every single game. And is it? I don't really know. I have no idea. I'm not a professional player, but is it better to almost like take your foot off the gas for a second, just kind of really think of all of these games as practice games for your bench primarily, and give them a chance to
Absolutely.
just figure themselves out a little bit, and but without risking injury to some of your key players. This is the first week when I actually had a thought, the Raptors might not make the playoffs, and not because they aren't good enough, but because of first of all how competitive the East is, and second of all because of the impact of injuries and what's happening here. And over the next few games, and like I don't know, like let's say it's 5 to 7 weeks before even 2 of the 3 are back. And how do you perform over those 5 to 7 weeks? If you go 500, that would be good. And if you just kind of, I don't know, just anything can happen. And staying healthy is one of the reasons why you win championships, right? Like so much of championships are things go right. And I don't know. It was the first week where I thought, oh, if we don't get our team fully healthy, and if we have an extended period of absence from 3 of our big people, or if these injuries keep happening, this could be, I don't know, not the season that we hoped it would be. So I really hope that that's wrong. I am not actually saying that that's the case. It was just the first time that I had that thought, seeing all of this happen over the last week.
Sarah, I agree with you, but I think it's pretty clear that we're a playoff team. I looked at the standings this morning, and I did notice that one loss dropped us into 6th seed, but it's so close. And you're right about the strength of the East. Like things have changed. I was looking at the Western Conference, and their 8th seed to get into the playoffs is below 500. And our 8th seed, I think, in the East is just at 500. So the balance of power has shifted.
Definitely. And also, Allison, you're the optimist right now. I just want to point that out.
No. Yeah, that's a complete change of character for me.
It is. I just want to make a comment about people on Twitter and like social media have been blaming the whole putting Pat McCaw out for more than 30 minutes on the court. And the Boston game, it was pretty clear that a lot of people were really upset about that decision that Nick Nurse had made with having him out for so long. And going back to what you were saying, Sarah, I think I agree with you that maybe the next couple of games, we just sort of have to ride them out. I mean, one of the things that I noticed in the Indiana Pacers game was that in the second quarter, Nick Nurse he had a defensive strategy going on there, and then it just took a little while for it to come into play, and then we were really on the Pacers. And so I'm hoping that maybe now, as we sort of go into 2020, that he also takes some time to reflect and see what's been working with this quote unquote skeleton crew that we have, and sort of going into the next few games, because it's the Eastern Conference it's exhausting for me to even watch, because it's so competitive, just what you said as well too, Allison.
Yeah, like I looked at, well, I'm sure we'll touch on this later, but I looked at the games this week thinking we might catch a break. We've got 5 games in 7 days. I mean, this is going to be really, really difficult. And I'm not saying that we have it more difficult than any other team, obviously not, but just with 3 rotation players down, this is going to be rough. Yeah.
And, to your earlier point, Allison, I actually do think this team is a championship team. I don't want to be, I hope it's not coming across like, I'm like, oh, my take is that the Raptors won't make the playoffs. That's totally not it. I 100% think the Raptors can make the playoffs, should make the playoffs, will make the playoffs. And it was the first time I thought, oh, maybe they won't. And part of that is actually just like dealing with, like anything could happen. Sometimes you have to actually consider and hold space for the possibilities you don't want at the same time, right? Like, and live in denial that it might happen, then you start taking things for granted. then it's just like you're just in denial, right? So you have to just deal with the reality as it is at any given moment. And right now we're dealing with the reality of 3 of our rotation players out, and it is going to be hard. We've got 5 games coming up in the next 7 days. Oh my gosh. I mean, I don't even know how these athletes do it. And we still haven't really talked about Pascal Siakam. One of the things I thought to myself as I was watching these games is I think I realized for the first time just how Pascal really does everything on this team. Because I look at Marc and I'm like, oh, I notice where we would need him. I know where we would need him. It would be in this situation on playing defense against these centers and the way he makes his plays, etc. I look at Norm and I'm like, yeah, he needs that explosive offensive spark, and I know what he brings. And I look at Pascal and I'm like, what's the one thing? And I'm like, there is no one thing. It's the whole game, and it's the way he stretches out the floor for other players to do their work. It's the consistent post-up offense that he can bring. It's his three-point shot. It's the defense he plays. It's just the fact that he's on the floor, and because he's on the floor, the other team needs to pay attention to him. And he really is just such a key player for this team. And without him, like his absence is hugely felt, but not necessarily in a way that is so pinpointed the way that the other players' absences are felt. Do you guys notice that, or is that just me?
No, absolutely. That's bang on. And I would just add his motor, like the fact that teams have to plan for his fast break, for his leaking out after like a defensive rebound. I mean, he's changed the way teams game plan for us, and he's very much missed. But I would suspect that there is an abundance of caution being used to manage this injury. I would suspect that it's probably not as bad as what's going on with Norm. Obviously a completely different injury, but I think Norm's going to have an extended absence. I think this is precautionary, and well, I'm hoping, but that's my feel for it.
Yeah. Okay. So, yeah, Spicy, we miss you a lot. It'd be great to have you back. Okay, so let's then, we are going to talk on the other, talk about the other Christmas games. We're going to get to that in a little bit. We're going to stay focused on the Raptors for a few more minutes here. We're going to move into one of our regular segments, the King of the North. Who this week stood out on the Raptors to you as deserving of the title King of the North for the week? Allison, go ahead.
Well, last week I disclosed my bias for Kyle Lowry. He's my favorite player, so he is going to be my King of the North. Amazing numbers this week. He had a double-double, last week, but he had a double-double, near double-double, and a triple-double, and continued to play this week with his brilliance in the comeback against Dallas and the near comeback against Indiana. He just put the team on his back against Dallas and willed them to victory. He was nothing short of, incandescent. The guy's amazing. So he is my King of the North for the week.
Sonali?
I have to agree with Allison. I mean, Eastern Conference Player of the Week, Kyle Lowry really did make Christmas this year. And it was just so amazing to see how excited he was to play on Christmas, to have a Christmas game. And I kind of did a bit of a research, and I realized that the last time that the Raptors played a Christmas Day game was 18 years ago, and Kyle Lowry would have been 15 years old, and Serge would have been 12, and OG Anunoby would have been 4 years old that day.
Wow.
That's really, really cute to think about. I wonder if Kyle Lowry was as cute as his kids when he was a kid. Carter and Cameron are the cutest kids I've ever seen, maybe in my whole life. If I had my own kids, I would still say that Kyle's kids are cuter than mine. Anyway, King of the North, absolutely, it's unanimous. Kyle, there's nobody who played better than him this week. All right, so then the next segment we've got is the court jester. Who was our court jester this week? This is kind of the player that we're wondering, or maybe they made us laugh, or I don't know. There's just something going on. So Sonali, we're starting with you this week. Who's your court jester?
I guess based on yesterday, I'll just go with Pat McCaw. I know the first episode I was very like, Pat McCaw, and I still am, but he seemed nervous, and he made me really nervous yesterday as well too. So he's going to be my jester of the week.
Okay, Allison?
I'm going to go, it pains me to do this. I'm going to go with Fred. Not for lack of effort, not for, just he's shooting. His numbers are terrible. I look back at the Dallas game, and I want to say he was something like 1 for 7 from 3, and he was a negative 20. And then in the Indiana game, he was 1 for 8 from 3 and a minus 13. So like I said before, I think it's clear that he's not right. And it was either Leo Routens or Jack Armstrong who made a comment about him not having lift. So if I were to guess, I would imagine there's probably swelling in his knee, a fluid collection in his knee, something like that, because clearly something is not right with Fred. So I hate to do it, but he will be my pick.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, I think both of those are reasonable picks to make. Allison, I know it'd be nice to see Fred shoot the ball better right now. And interesting theory that maybe his knee is not 100%. Maybe that's what's going on. For me, court jester of the week is going to be Pat McCaw. My experience when I watch him is just that, like, he's really quick to give the ball up on offense. It's like he's just really insecure out there. Like, he doesn't know exactly when to shoot. Like, at least when you have Terrence Davis out there, this guy doesn't care if he misses. If the shot's there for him to take, he's going to take it. And I think that's what you have to do. Played 32 minutes yesterday. He had 2 points, 1 for 5, 1 steal, no assists. Like, I don't know, just I look at his stat line, and based on that stat line alone, I'm like, how is he out there for 32 minutes and what happened? I guess I'm curious. I'm kind of with the Twitter timeline on this one. I'm like, what does Nick see? And, I know we're not there in practice, so what do we know? But we can at least, I don't know. Watching that game yesterday, I did wonder why he was on the court instead of some other players. Although I'm not sure it would have made a huge difference, and the players we actually needed weren't available to us at that time. So what do you do? Okay, let's move into, really quickly, anything else that either of you want to say about this week's Raptors games before we move to the other Christmas games?
Not at this point. Well, since I have the opportunity, I just want to go back to my King of the North for the week. And I did read somewhere that the Hall of Fame inductees for 2020 were announced. And Shawn Marion was one of the nominees. So no knock against Shawn Marion. He's, I think, a 4-time All-Star. But all the Kyle Lowry haters, I mean, this guy has 5 All-Star appearances and counting. He has a ring. He has an Olympic gold. So if Shawn Marion's in, Kyle Lowry is for sure in. And that's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Kyle Lowry should be in the Hall of Fame, period. Do you actually wonder if he's not going to be, Allison? Like, are you worried about that?
No, there's so many, the people on my Twitter timeline, there's a lot of Kyle Lowry haters. I'm not talking about Canadians, but fans in other cities. I mean, they hate the guy. And yeah, it's surprising to me.
Yeah, it's really heartbreaking because he's such a nice man. He's got so much heart, and I don't get it either. I don't get why there's so many Kyle Lowry haters.
Maybe they hate him because he doesn't play for their team.
Maybe. Like why everyone hates Patrick Beverley.
Exactly. There you go. Okay. So, let's then kind of check in on the other Christmas games. So we had Philadelphia playing Milwaukee. That was a bit of a blowout in Philadelphia's favor. We had Golden State play the Houston Rockets, and that was a surprising upset with Golden State taking the win. And then we had the Lakers playing the Clippers, and the Clippers came from behind, and they eked out the win against the Lakers. So that's what happened. What do y'all think?
Yeah, Golden State. Sorry. Go ahead, Allison.
No, go ahead, Sonali.
No,
go ahead.
That game, I sat there with my mouth open, and I was like, what is going on here? what is going on? How is the town beating H-Town? Like, it was just insane. I mean, Draymond Green, I don't really care for the guy, but yeah. Anyways, that's all I have to say. I'm still stunned that the Golden State Warriors won that Christmas game.
I was only able to watch. I watched our game. I missed the Philadelphia game, and I was kind of surprised about that. I did think that Milwaukee might win that game. I caught the last half of the Lakers and Clippers. That looks like it was probably a fun game to watch in its entirety, and I was kind of happy to see the Clippers win that game. And I missed the last game, so that was the extent of my my day yesterday.
And the Clippers won without Paul George, which I thought was phenomenal as well, too.
So, sorry, Sonali, are you saying Paul George didn't play the game yesterday? He did.
Yes, he did. Sorry, okay. Clearly, I haven't had enough coffee this morning. But anyways, yes, you're right. Psych.
Okay, I mean, I did see someone on Twitter joke about how they had to win without Paul George, again, in the sense that Paul George didn't really show up to play. He got 17.
And I think that was the kind of the reference that I was trying to make. But then, yeah, anyways, I did watch the game.
Okay.
I did see Anthony Davis fall on Kevin Hart, not on accident.
Okay. So, yeah.
Did you guys hear Patrick Beverley's comments after the game? I guess, well, I can't really mention his comments without being profane, but he did say when he was interviewed, "This is my MFing city." And then someone must have said something to him about James Harden, and he made a comment, "Don't compare me to James Harden. I'll lock his ass up too." So it was, you gotta love someone who's like so brash and so audacious. I mean, he's kind of like Lance Stevenson with skills.
Yeah, and I love that. I mean, just to compare that to his teammate, Kawhi Leonard, who post-game, they asked him, "What does it mean for the LA rivalry?" And he goes, "It doesn't mean anything. This is one game of the regular season." And he's just got nothing about it. And I just love it. You got Pat Bev on one hand, just talking smack. You got Kawhi on the other hand. This is just a game. It doesn't matter. Ultimately, we're just looking for the championship. How do these players play together? It just cracks me up. Yeah, so, and then Sonali, back to your earlier point, yeah, watching Golden State, and like, they held James Harden to one free throw for the entire second half. How did they even do that?
That was crazy.
Yeah.
And also, just going back to the Clippers game, it was really cute to see Danny Green defend Kawhi Leonard. Like, it was really cute.
I was just wondering when the haters are going to start piling on James Harden for choking and failing to show up for big games.
You think they haven't already?
Well, again, it's mostly Raptors people on my timeline, so I'd be happy if that was the case, if they are.
Oh yeah, there's at least some hate going towards James Harden. I mean, doesn't he just get hate all the time, constantly? People hate his style of play. James Hayden, is that a thing? People call him that? I just make that up. Right?
Yep.
Okay, good. So anything else on the Christmas games? If we had Esi here, Esi would go on about the LA Lakers and the LA Clippers game. She would just talk for hours and hours. Lakers are her second favorite team. She would have a lot more to say than we do. So definitely missing Esi's contribution to this conversation.
Maybe she can do a quick recap for the next episode.
Yeah, that'll be good. We'll just get her on here, do her own piece. Okay, so then let's move to another segment that we do, Raptors Tea Time. This is our social summary. Sonali, take us away.
Yeah, I guess for the Raptors Tea Time, the two biggest things that stood out to me in the last week are the Serge Ibaka halftime Christmas special that was sponsored by Loblaws, so everything was President's Choice, and the episode of Avec Classe on the Uninterrupted channel on YouTube. So sort of also sponsored by another Canadian company, Holt Renfrew, and just going to the Christmas special. Did you guys? I think both of you watched it as well too, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes. So I don't know about you guys, but it just really reminded me of this sort of Canadian experience. And, I come from an immigrant family, and the Christmas traditions that people bring in, and just what a multicultural country we are. And, seeing Serge bring all these other heavy hitter stars like Bianca Andreescu and Penny Oleksiak and Biz Nasty. And I forget, Paul Bissonnette, I think was the other guy, or Bo Bichette. I don't know the other two players. I don't watch NHL, and I'm not a huge baseball fan, but I really loved seeing Ibaka learn about Rudolph and where the Rudolph song came from. He had no idea who Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer was. And so, as you can tell by this podcast episode, I'm obsessed with the reindeer and Santa Claus. So that to me was really cute. And also the fact that he's this man who dresses in such a ostentatious way, and he's just such a well put together man, but then he reveals that he loves eating crickets and that they're chock full of protein. So it was just really cute and lighthearted and very Canadian in its appeal. And I just love that. I love the Canadian flair that we bring, and that this was on national television, and people get a flavor of what it's like to be Canadian.
Yeah.
It was a fun segment for sure. And I just, I was watching that thinking, you look at those 5 people at the table, and you know who the Raptors target market is. And it's not the 50 plus, it's like young people, because that's the market and that's the future. So that was kind of fun to see. It was nice marketing.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
I think Sarah was saying something.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing that perspective to the halftime show. I did see some negativity about it, people saying it was actually really boring. I mean, maybe it wasn't the most entertaining conversation you've ever had, but I mean, sometimes life is actually just about being connected as opposed to being entertained. And I thought Serge did a really beautiful job of welcoming these people and creating connections. So.
Yeah, and also
it's kind of a glimpse into the life of elite athletes and just their conversation. And it was interesting to see their respect for each other. Like Serge was like interested in Bianca. Like that part of it was kind of fun.
And how everyone has a story, and we all come from somewhere. And I just thought that was really unique. And like I've seen a lot about Serge this week in the media, and I don't know if you guys saw the New York Times article. He had a New York Times article about how where he's come from, and how it was sort of becoming an NBA champion for him was just something that feels like a dream and so surreal. And I think around this time of year, it's really important to have those kind of stories come out, and story about connection. There's like a huge part of that story has to do with Kawhi, because it is American media and they want to talk about Leonard leaving the Raptors, and just the relationship between him and Ibaka, and how sad Ibaka was when he left, but also love is love. And even if Kawhi's on the Clippers, he still loves, there's always going to be a place in Toronto, is always going to be a home for him. And I think that's really, again, going back to, that's really what being Canadian is. And I don't know, I just feel so much pride right now, especially with what's going on down south. So
well said.
Yeah, the other part was just, there's a 10-minute show called Avec Classe, which Serge teams up with players from the Raptors team to give them sort of a makeover, a dress for success kind of deal. And so Freddie Van Vliet was on the first episode, and it was really cute because, yeah, again, just like how hungry are you? You get this kind of intimate interaction between the players, and you see their sort of off-court chemistry as well too. And Serge likes to kind of poke fun, and Freddie is just such a he's a full-on introvert, and so he's not an he doesn't like all the attention, and so it was really cute to see the two of them and sort of the jabs that they threw at people like Russell Westbrook and PJ Tucker and their dressing style. And I think my favorite line in that, which they put in the trailer, is, Freddie, you dress nice, you dress clean, but I do art. And it's so true. Serge does do art on and off the court.
I missed that. I'll have to watch it. It sounds great.
It is really cute.
I love that. Just since we're talking about Serge and he's kind of the highlight of our social tea time right now, I just want to say what I love about Serge is how he genuinely loves being on the Raptors and his sincere contribution to the community here and to his team. What I really get is that he's just really grateful to be here and grateful for every minute that he gets to spend in the city. He loves Toronto. He just brings like a very real sense of gratitude and connection to the team, and I just got nothing but props for him.
Yeah, and just a sense of accessibility. I mean, I will die saying this, is that I think basketball truly is the only sport that brings every ethnicity together, every background, because at the end of the day, socioeconomically, it's the only sport that, all you need is a ball. All you need is a ball and a group of people. And it's just incredible what he's done, and just, so much heart, so much community. Yay, Serge.
Yay, Serge. Okay, so thank you. That wraps up our tea time. Next, I just want to remind everyone that all-star voting is underway, and we have at least a couple all-stars on our team. Pascal Siakam, Kyle Lowry, get out there, vote for them. They shouldn't be playing in this game, except they probably can't. Or maybe they shouldn't be playing in this game, but at the very least, they should get the votes. So that's what's going on. And now we're just going to look forward to our upcoming weeks. So between now and the next time we record, Toronto's going to be playing 4 games. They're going to be playing Boston again next on Saturday, followed immediately by on Sunday the Oklahoma City Thunder. We play the Cavaliers, and we also play Miami. So that is not an easy schedule coming up. We're going to do a little bit of predictions for this upcoming week. Allison, what do you think is going to happen?
Oh boy. So the full-on pessimist is back. This is going to be a really, really difficult week. And it kind of reminds me of that expression, you either have to fish or cut bait. I'm not sure how that pertains to this week, but I'm looking at, like you said, Boston Saturday, OKC Sunday. I don't think we're going to win the Boston game. And OKC, Steve Adams, the guy has our number. So if memory serves me correctly, we did not beat them last year. I think they were one of 2 teams that we didn't win either game against. I think Denver was the other team, and maybe Houston. And then I'm looking at Cleveland, which I hope that'll be an easy game. Miami, I don't think we're winning that game. And I took a peek ahead to Saturday, so the 5th game in 7 days, and we're playing Brooklyn, which they're not an easy out either. So I think this is going to be a very difficult week. I see us going 1-3, but once again, I hope I'm wrong.
Sonali?
Yeah, I'm going to have to defer to Allison. I think I have the same predictions, and I'm quite pessimistic at this point, and it's a tough battle.
Okay, I will be the voice of optimism, and I'll say let's go 2-2. I think if we can go 500 over the stretch, that will be a good outcome for the Raptors. I don't think we beat Miami. Miami's just, to me, still the best team that we have played defensively this year. I don't think any other team so far matches the Raptors on defense when the Raptors are healthy, the way that Miami has. I think they're a sleeper team in the East, and anything could happen with them just based on how they play defense. So yeah, I don't see a win against that team. Boston, I think we're headed for back-to-back losses there. Maybe OKC and maybe the Cavaliers. I think the Cavaliers are one of those teams we should beat them. Will we? Let's see. Cavaliers are exactly the opposite of Miami in that they don't play defense at all. So maybe that's where we get one of our wins. Let's see how it goes. I'll be curious to see how Nick approaches this week with his team, and what the mindset of the team going into these games is. I'm just curious.
Sarah, I think you're 100% right about Miami. They're kind of a scary team, and I see that as a loss as well.
So that's it. I think that covers our podcast for today. Anything else either of you want to say? Next time we talk, it's going to be the New Year. So I guess Happy New Year to everybody and everyone.
Yes, and the greatest comeback of all time. And a dominant dynasty.
Sorry, Allison, what'd you say?
Go Raptors.
All right, go Raptors. Thanks everyone for tuning in. We will see you, I believe, Saturday. Thank you so much for being here with us, and Happy New Year to all of you. Go Raptors, go. We'll see you all soon. Bye.